As he was showing the prince to a chair and seating him at the table, the prince chanced to turn to him and stopped under the impression of his extremely strange and heavy gaze. It was as if something pierced the prince and as if at the same time he remembered something, recent, heavy, gloomy. Not sitting down and standing motionless, he looked for some time straight into Rogojin's eyes. They seemed to flash more intensely in the first moment. Finally Rogojin smiled, but with some embarrassment and as if at a loss. "Why are you staring like that?" he muttered. "Sit down." The prince sat down. "Perfume," he said, "tell me straight out, did you know I would come to Petersburg today, or not?" "That you would come, I did think, and as you see I wasn't mistaken," the man said, smiling caustically, "but how should I know you'd come today?" The harsh abruptness and strange irritation of the question contained in the answer struck the prince still more. "But even if you had known I'd come today, why get so irritated?" the prince said softly in embarrassment. "But why do you ask?" "This morning, as I was getting off the train, I saw a pair of eyes looking at me exactly the way you were just looking at me from behind." "Aha! Whose eyes were they?" Rogojin muttered suspiciously. It seemed to the prince that he gave a start. "I don't know. In the crowd, it even seems to me that I imagined it. I've somehow begun to imagine things all the time." "You know, Brother Perfume, I feel almost the way I did 5 years ago, when I was still having my fits." "So, maybe you did imagine it, I don't know," Perfume went on muttering. The affectionate smile on his face did not suit it at that moment, as if something had been broken in this smile and, try as he might, Perfume was unable to glue it back together. "So you're going abroad again, are you?" he asked and suddenly added, "And do you remember us on the train, in the autumn, coming from Pskov, me here, and you in a cloak, remember, and those gaiters?" And Rogojin suddenly laughed, this time with a sort of overt malice and as if delighted that he had managed to express it at least in some way. "You've settled here for good?" the prince asked, looking around the study. "Yes, I'm at home here." "Where else should I be?" "We haven't seen each other for a long time." I've heard such things about you, it's as if it were not you. People say all kinds of things, Rogozhin observed dryly. You've scattered your whole company, though, you sit here in the parental house, doing no mischief. So, that's good. Is it your house or all the family's? The house is my mother's. She lives there down the corridor. And where does your brother live? Brother Semyon Semyonich is in the wing. Does he have a family? He's a widower. Why do you ask? The prince looked at him and did not answer. He suddenly became pensive and seemed not to hear the question. Rogozhin did not insist and waited. Silence fell. I recognized your house just now from 100 paces away, as I was approaching, said the prince. Why so? I have no idea. Your house has the physiognomy of your whole family and of your whole Rogozhin life, but ask me why I think that, and I can't explain it. Nonsense, of course. I'm even afraid of how much it disturbs me. It never occurred to me before that this would be the sort of house you lived in, but when I saw it, I thought at once, yes, that's exactly the kind of house he had to have. See? Rogozhin smiled vaguely, not quite understanding the prince's unclear thought. This house was built by my grandfather, he observed. Castrates used to live here, the Kludyukovs, they rent from us even now. So gloomy. You sit in such gloom, said the prince, looking around the study. It was a big room, high, darkish, cluttered with all sorts of furniture, mostly big desks, bureaus, bookcases in which ledgers and papers were kept. A wide red Morocco couch apparently served Rogozhin as a bed. On the table at which Rogozhin had seated him, the prince noticed 2 or 3 books. One of them, Solovyov's History, 15, was open and had a bookmark in it. On the walls, in dull gilt frames, hung several oil paintings, dark, sooty, on which it was hard to make anything out. One full-length portrait drew the prince's attention. It depicted a man of about 50, in a frock coat of German cut but with long skirts, with 2 medals on his neck, a very sparse and short, grayish beard, a wrinkled and yellow face, and a suspicious, secretive, and somewhat doleful gaze. That wouldn't be your father? Asked the prince. The man himself, Rogojin replied with an unpleasant smile, as if readying himself for some immediate, unceremonious joke about his deceased parent. He wasn't an old believer, was he? 16. No, he went to church, but it's true he used to say the old belief was more correct.